Today, let's talk about Facebook and how we can be good supporters of those we care about when they have suffered a loss. This has happened to all of us, I'm sure, when we're scrolling and all of a sudden we see a notice. And it's a notice from somebody that we know saying that they've suffered a loss. It's an obituary posting. Maybe they make a statement, maybe a picture. And we feel all those emotions and we want to comfort them. The initial thought is, I want to reach out to them, which is perfect. We want to do that. We want to let them know we care. Some of the challenges that Facebook poses are that when we reach out, we can't do so by being silently present, because the only way to communicate is through the written word. The written word obviously is difficult because we have to say something instead of listening and being respectfully present. And not only do we have to say something, but we have to say it in writing, which can lose all of the emotive qualities that speech can have. So we're often left feeling a little bit at a loss for words, right? A loss of things that we can put down that can really reflect how we feel. So I just wanted to talk today about some of the things we should avoid doing and some of the things that we could try and add to what we're doing now to really meet people where they're at. So since the griever is in charge of when and where and how they talk about their grief, when they post something and they provide whatever information they provide, what we want to do is avoid asking questions. If they post that somebody passed away, we want to avoid asking, well, how did they die? Or, I thought those treatments were working, or when is the funeral even? Or any kind of question really isn't being in tune with, on their terms and their time, they'll give us the information that they'd like us to have. So maybe they don't want to talk about some of those things, maybe they don't have those answers yet, whatever the case may be. Our role is to provide comfort, not put a burden on them of saying, I want to know something different. I want to know something you didn't tell me. Or I want to know something you might not feel comfortable talking about. I'm ready for information that you didn't give me. So the way that will land is stress, and maybe even it will feel offensive if we ask things like, what happened? Why did they die? What did they die of? Things like that in person and in writing. We should avoid those. So they're in charge of what information they provide, and they're in charge of when they provide it and how they provide it. So if Facebook is one of those ways they provide a notice, then our job is to respond, but without doing questioning. We also want to avoid trying to build connection through, if a friend of mine loses her father, if I think I am going to build connection here because I lost my father too, and this is just going to bond us and connect us, and I'm going to write down, I lost my father too, and it was the hardest thing that ever happened, and on and on and on. What I've done there is I've turned the attention to me instead of to the griever. And I've turned the attention to my experience, and I've asked the griever to do one of two things without ever intending. I've asked them to console me instead of me consoling them by bringing up my loss. And when we put in a bid for connection by talking about a similar loss, it can come across as comparison instead of connection, and that was not what we intended. So we want to avoid bringing the attention to us and our losses. We want to stick to them and their loss at hand. So that can be really tough. What can be tough is coming up with the right words, and obviously less is more. We know that from when we're talking to people in person. We want to keep things not so wordy and more in the listening type of arena. But things like thoughts and prayers or thinking of you can feel kind of canned. They really can. So for some people that are colleagues or we don't know all that well, that is a perfectly acceptable thing to write. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel like it really reflects what we're saying, but there's a lot of things we want to avoid. So it works. But in order to make that just a little bit more personal, one thing that you can do is add a comma in their name. Thinking of you, Amy. Thinking of you, Joe. By saying their name, it makes it more personal. It makes them know you are talking to them. You're not just typing in a canned message. You are saying this to them personally. The other thing that you can do is take a minute to read the obituary if that's there, or look at that photo that they posted and take time to comment on it. Say, I noticed your dad's just really deep faith, and I want you to let you know I'm keeping you in my prayers. Or, what a beautiful picture. I can see where you get your radiant smile from your mom. We'll keep you in my prayers. So saying something personal about what they have put out there and complimenting is a way to make it more personal. Now, if you know the person well and you know the deceased, one of the best things that you can do is say something very personal. When you think about that person, what do you think about? And it might be a story. It might be a special time that you spent together. It might be a trait of theirs or a quality of theirs that you really respected and honored. And you can write that down and say, oh, I always really admired that your dad had this quality. So say something really specific, a compliment that's really specific about the deceased, and that will really meet the griever where they are and fill them up. And if it's something you can put on that public post, there are other people reading that from the family and friends, and they might, share a smile and enjoy that memory as well, or enjoy that compliment as well. If it's something you're not quite sure, does it belong on public Facebook, go ahead and switch over into a private message and make that connection with them. And then if it is somebody that you know well, I would say show up there, because they have chosen that method of communication. So they have put the bid out there for connection, so you answer there on Facebook, but also you don't forget to show up some more in their lives in some way, in some fashion, as this time goes on for them, throughout this time right after this loss is occurring and beyond. Take it from this post as just part of what we're going to do to support this griever. So I hope that helps. Have a good day.